Thank you for joining us at Unlabelled and Limitless. I am your host Lois Bainham, and I am joined today by my co-host, Claire. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Claire, and I'm the co-host at Unlabelled and Limitless. We're going to talk today about productivity and rest.
Yeah, thank you for joining me on this podcast today. Something you and I have talked about quite a lot in the last few weeks is productivity and rest, right? What does productivity mean in the workplace? What does it mean in life? And what does rest look like in that? Especially as two people that are neurodivergent. I know we're both diagnosed with ADHD and you also with dyslexia. It's sometimes more difficult for us to understand where that boundary is, right, between productivity and burnout, because we're in a rut that we can't get out of or something else is going on. I think first thing that we might want to talk about is how hustle culture can impact on neurodivergent people a little bit differently. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that.
Yeah, my thoughts are pretty singular because it's not something that I'm uncomfortable talking about. I just didn't know it was a thing. I have grown up in a hustle culture environment, like I'm assuming a lot of us have. It feels like I can do whatever I set my mind to if I just worked hard, these long hours, but it completely depletes myself, and I'm assuming again, like others. It's this confusing where you think I'm seeing other people do it. It's comparing again. I seeing other people do it. What's stopping me? Do I not have the grit? Do I not have ability to succeed? And if I don't, then do I really want it? It's like I do want it, but I'm finding myself completely depleted and I don't really know how to get up from that. And then I'm also telling myself I should take care of my mental health more than all these emails or all recipe developments or whatever it is that you're trying to do to be successful and have your own business or just be a rising star. I just don't know who to talk to about it. And then I met Lois, and I get to talk about it all the time. So it's making me open-minded to the idea that, yeah, hustle culture is here to stay. But for me, I'm finding it difficult because I also do have an entrepreneurial mindset and get that from my mom. And I want to have all of these ideas come into fruition. But I stop myself because I know I can't handle X and XYZ amount of work in a day, but that's what's necessary for that to become a product. I can't not do those things and then expect to have a giant company of my own or a successful side hustles. I don't know. But
So we've been told.
yeah.
And I think you make a
yeah.
lot of really good points there.
I've been told, but then there's a little voice in my head that's okay. I know I'm neurodivergent. I know I can't handle this amount of things on a sustainable level because I know I'm going to be burnt out. But that's still what's being told in my ear. So it's this different way that we need to navigate how to have success to our standard and not burn out, which is like the golden ticket. Like, how do you do that?
Absolutely. You bring up so many good points. One of the things is that we are told culturally, a lot of us have grown up in hustle culture, and we've been told by the older generations, if you go out and work really hard and become really good at what you do, these opportunities will be there and you can have a steady job and make steady progression. The world we live in isn't like that anymore. That isn't accurate. There's a lot of uncertainty right now, and so many people jump into hustle culture. I've done it myself where I've had 4 or 5 different jobs, earning a little bit here and doing this thing over there. I've done the 7 to 11 shifts and things like that. And each time I would go through these cycles of burnout, I felt like I failed every time I burned out because I lived with this belief that if I just try hard enough and do all of the things that are asked from me, that I'll be able to keep on going. But in the real world, there are ceilings and
Mhm.
you can't just keep going. There are
Mhm.
hierarchies you may be ushered into, but then have to respect. So you've got another ceiling. You've got politics where you've got to suck up to the right people
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
pretend in the right rooms and things like that. It's as a neurodiverse person and as somebody with ADHD and like you sometimes don't know where you end and the diagnosis begins. But for me, I never had the energy to play office politics.
Mhm.
I always go into a situation and think if I work really hard and I do everything that is asked of me, I will be rewarded fairly for my contributions. And time again, I've learned
Mhm.
that isn't how I take that quite literally. And I think a lot of neurodivergent people and a lot of people that are not neurodivergent have taken that to heart. And we've been told, right, if we go back in history to the in England, they called it the Protestant work ethic. You have to
Mhm.
work 6 days a week, and the seventh day is for God. And the
Mhm.
harder you work, the more you'll be rewarded. And that's where Marx came up with his whole religion is the opiate of the masses and a means of control, because that's very much how the kind of workhouses and things operated. But I see that in hustle culture now. There are teams of engineers that are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in salaries with great bonuses and things, but they're expected to work for 2, 3 month stints. And as soon as they finish one stint, it's into the next one.
Mhm.
These companies are priding themselves on this kind of, oh, if you want to work for our company, you've got to be into this like 7 a.m.
Mhm.
to 9 p.m.
Mhm.
hustle culture, and we're going to work solidly and we're going to do this thing. It does work in some very unique situations with the right leader and the right people in that situation. But generally, it just doesn't work anymore. And I hear a lot from leaders and business owners about Gen Z at the moment. And it's like they're just not
Mhm.
interested, they're not engaged. I've offered them these opportunities and they're just not even interested
Mhm.
in seeing what they
Mhm.
are. And it's, yeah, because they've seen that hard work doesn't actually get you anywhere. It
Mhm.
gets you more work with the same pay
Mhm.
and a bunch of
Mhm.
excuses
Mhm.
and a bigger engagement in these ridiculous office politics that are also very draining. And yeah, I think that for us, productivity is very goal oriented, kind of, oh, there's this limited period of time and these things need to be done within it. We have obstacles with distractions, or maybe it takes us longer to process something than somebody else might. But when we get going, it's
Mhm.
zone in and focus on the prize. I do think for myself, getting caught up in hustle culture, I really misunderstood what it was. I have to hustle now because I'm a business owner, but I hustle from 9 to 5. I do things out of hours, of course, but I make sure that I make time to just engage with people and catch up. You and I had a catch up yesterday, completely unrelated to anything that we're doing. And that was really nice to have that time to do that. Something I'm interested in as well that you raised and we've touched on is that as you burn out or give your all, but then feel like you're failing, there's this sort of guilt that comes along with resting. I know
Mhm.
for me, I have this urge that I have to keep going because that's the only way I'll be seen as being good enough or only get those things. Know what your experience is with that and whether you experience guilt when it's time to rest or your body's saying stop.
Yeah. I feel like that's a feeling I had a lot more in the past, like, maybe, 2, 3 years ago. I would feel really bad about just doing resting, which is what we need because, like you said, you didn't do enough or you feel like you failed because you should have gotten this done in this period of time. People are looking up to you, whether it's yourself, your family, your workers, your boss, or whoever is making these demands. So you can make yourself demand. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, you make your demands to yourself and you're like, oh, I didn't meet those goals. I'm making myself feel guilty for things that I told myself to do and I didn't make the mark. I used to make myself feel very guilty. And it didn't do anything good for me. It made me feel like crap. It made me feel like, why, even though you're the only person that could do it because it's you. I went into bad depressive state and I wouldn't call myself like depressed, but I do have those windows and it feels really crappy. It makes you feel like you don't know what you're doing here. You don't know why you're here. You don't know if this is something that you're qualified for. I just went down a bad rabbit hole. But I think throughout the years, I've learned how rest is very impactful. Although it might correlate with me thinking, oh, I just can't do that because I'm already burned out by reading the list of things that I need to do. I think that's not something that we should be telling ourselves either, because then that makes us not go for what we want. It's another step in learning, like, I can do 4 of these things. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to either go for a little walk. I'm going to eat my lunch. I'm going to eat some grapes. I've been on a grape kick, so I keep mentioning them. If I have energy when I come back, I'll go back. But if I don't, then I don't need to feel bad about myself because I already set a goal. I already reached the goal. And now I'm going to go rest and not talk badly about myself. That's how I've been trying to get it to go. Obviously, it's not perfect every time, but yeah, that's how I
I
view it.
really love that perspective. And that's a really positive way of looking at it, right? Because you can take that list of things and you can look at it after you don't have any more energy and say, I only got 4 things done. Or you can say to yourself, there's 10 things to do. I'm going to try and do at least 4 of them. And if I've got the energy, I'll do more. And you do that 4 and you feel accomplished. You know what?
Mhm.
I did those 4 things. And now when I go to bed tonight, I've got 4 things less that I've got to do rather than
Mhm.
I've still got 6 more things.
Mhm.
And when you went down your rabbit hole, I was actually hoping you were going to go a little bit further because I really loved where you were going with it. It is like when we get into that negative mindset, into that depressive mindset, and maybe it isn't depression all the time, but we do go through those days where we're feeling blue, we don't quite feel okay, but we're all right. And we go
Mhm.
through all sorts of these different moods and emotions and mindsets to be able to take that more positive mindset now and say, actually, I succeeded at these things instead of I failed at those things. It takes more energy to be negative. It takes
Mhm.
more of our body's fuel and our brain's fuel and everything else for us to think about things in that deep depressive spiral and negative thought process, right? Yeah, to be able to reflect on that and look back, it was like everything was looked at through a difficult lens. Why is this happening to me? And it's like a feeling of powerless as well. I was like, if I just work another 5 hours on this thing, maybe it'll be perfect enough for somebody to recognize how hard I'm trying.
Mhm.
It was never that people didn't see how hard I was trying. I was just swinging and missing balls,
Mhm.
right? Like
Mhm.
that. But that's because I wasn't
Mhm.
resting. We'll move on to rest in a minute. And I know a lot of us think we're superhuman, and I'm diagnosed with insomnia and I'm medicated for it. It's something I talk about a lot and appreciate the place I'm in now. When you're losing sleep, your anxiety levels are high and you have rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which is very common amongst people diagnosed with ADHD and autism. And you're going through these motions. You've also got lived experience of constantly meeting roadblocks, disappointing people, and never quite achieving your potential. It really compounds and can definitely amplify both the traits that we exhibit, the behaviors that we exhibit, but also the needs that we have as well. So what does that rest mean for you, and how did you find yourself to that place where you found that balance between, okay, I might want to do this, but you know what? I'm actually going to choose to rest now because this is what I actually need to do.
Yeah, I think that started happening for me at a unrelatable like stance because I was living in San Francisco, living my city life. It was pre and post COVID, those different types of lifestyles. I was born and raised there, for those of you who didn't know that. When you're raised in a city, your mindset is just to go. You don't really know it because you're there. But after COVID, my fiance bought a house in the woods. So I moved in with him and I was working remote at the time. I had this resting mindset of, okay, I know how to just be at home. It might be a little bit lonely or boring or not a whole lot going on at times, but I got used to it and I came to find that I loved it. So when I moved to the woods, I was slowly pulling myself away from the loudness in my head that kind of came alongside living in the city. And I found myself really at peace and at ease. I live in a circle, basically a mile-long circle, and there's trees everywhere. I'm in the woods. Very peaceful, very calm. I brought my 18-year-old cat with me. I look over at her sometimes and I'm like, oh, you're just chilling. You're just resting. You're just living a peaceful life. Day by day, I've been here for almost 3 years. I just let go of a lot of the noise. I don't really do social media aside from my podcasts with Lois and the rest of the team and YouTube. But other than that, I'm really not there. And I love it. I find that when I'm not participating in things that don't serve me, I no longer feel like the outsider. I feel like I'm coming more into myself and I'm not resting on the couch or taking a breather, but it's my version of that. I find that I'm more in a rest state than I am in it's not productivity. Like I know we're talking about productivity and rest, but like I'm more of like in a calm resting state where I refuse to burn out, but it still happens at workplaces and things. When I move to the woods, I breathe in fresh air, I exhale fresh air. That doesn't make sense, but
I think a lot of people will understand that. I live in New York City, and
yeah.
I was just saying to my mom a couple of days ago, we vacuum in the apartment at minimum once a week, if not twice a week, and we go through at least 6 Dyson cylinders to empty out. We do have 3 pets here, and they're all very fuzzy. But in general, it's like the city's so smoggy. And when we go upstate and I'm in the woods, because Brian's parents essentially live in the woods too, you just feel like I feel very grounded. I stay outside in the rain, in the snow. I want to be there in every type of weather, just outside, breathing the air and listening to the nothingness. But I had said to my mum this morning, when I leave New York, one of the things I miss the most is the constant noise and the sirens in the distance and things like that. It feels really weird to me when everything's super quiet and silent.
Yeah. I think I think that has something to do with the nervous system, but I don't have knowledge on that. But it's a familiar, like those are weirdly comforting sounds and like vibrations and all of that. I grew up camping and I was 4 years old when I first went to my sleepaway camp. From 4 to 12, I did the same thing every year. You would sleep outside under the stars, eat oatmeal. You would pick up things off the floor you've dropped and you'd have to eat that too. And it'd be like a cool can challenge or you didn't have to, but for your children, I didn't bother. You would swim in this natural water formation thing and it's murky water. It's gross, but you're children and you just get used to those things. And those are the things that you find fun. It was peaceful. It was quiet. The only sounds were us either laughing or crying and just having lived life. So when I agreed to come live in the woods, I didn't even hesitate. I was like, I could do that. That's fine. I've never done it before, but sure, why not?
It's like
It's
camping.
been, yeah, just like camping, but that's where you live. You get to sleep in your bed. and go outside and see a sky full of stars. It's just this thing that I was ready for. And I think my body was also telling me that, do you want to stay in San Francisco and just make it happen? Or do you want to live in the woods? And I'm like, you know what? I've been there for 18 plus years. I'm ready to go do something different. Changed me a lot. Almost every day I think, wow, I'm at peace. I'm not racing in my head of certain things that I don't think bothered me when I lived in San Francisco, but now I realize I like this side of the life better for myself. I'm so different.
It's definitely difficult sometimes to turn the noise off, especially when
Mhm,
a lot of city life is built on networking and who you know. You do have to be a lot more engaged, and that kind of adds to the hustle culture, right? As well as having
mhm,
to get all this work done, you've also got to turn up to a whole bunch of social events so that you can be seen,
mhm.
so that you have
Right.
presence. For a
So
lot of neurodivergent people, you spent an entire day masking
yeah.
and just telling yourself, we're almost
Mhm,
there, and then you can go home and turn the lights off or decompress or
mhm.
do whatever it is. And then it's, oh no, I've got to go to this happy hour that I really don't want to
Don't
go
wanna go
to with
to.
people I don't want to
Mhm,
talk to. And it's not that you don't
mhm,
think your work friends are okay people or nice or
mhm.
anything else, but sometimes you're just like, I barely see my family. I've seen your
Yeah.
faces all week. And right now, I don't know,
No.
there's really nice dinner on the table that I could be eating. And I think what
Yeah.
you started to talk about was rest as well. Rest isn't necessarily sleep. And a lot of
Mhm,
people think it is just sleep.
mhm,
Science does tell us, and the more it progresses, the more definitive it is that human beings need to sleep, and
mhm,
specific amount of hours do different things to help us stay healthy, feel great. Since I started to sleep, I don't have exhaustion
mhm,
around my eyes. While I was burnt out and tired and not sleeping, this part of my face always felt like I was trying to hold it
mhm,
up and it just wanted to sink. And
mhm,
now I just feel like I've got bright eyes, and it's not because I'm using some kind of weird face cream or anything, and I probably look
mhm,
exhausted with bags, but it doesn't feel that way. I just don't have exhaustion in my eyes. What you also said about rest, I think, is really important as well, because people misunderstand that rest can sometimes be active or
mhm,
productive. What kind of things do you do? Because I know you love to cook.
mhm.
So is that what you do for your rest and recuperation? You just get into the kitchen, zone out, and
Yeah.
get going?
The kitchen for a recipe that I've been really wanting to make, but I didn't have time for it. So I made time for it. I've been really on a soap making kick lately. I started that in COVID and then I dropped it, but now I can. So I am. It could be just picking up the dogs after my shift and then taking them out to the woods immediately, watching them. Honestly, sometimes rest for me is just watching my dogs have a good time. My heart just melts when I'm like, oh, they're having a good time. They're older boys. So I don't know, just makes me feel good about myself, and then it also makes me feel like, yes, they're getting their outside walk and they're swimming and they're falling in water and they're just doing smelling all the things.
Good.
To honestly, me talking to you, there are so many conversations we have in a day. Some take from you, some give to you, some make you feel like you're on top of the world, and then some make you feel like, oh, wow, that was a waste of my words. Like how you were talking about the happy hours after work. I used to do that a lot more often than I do now because I just separate myself. I'm also a good chunk away from work. So I just want to go home to my boys and live my life, not the life that I have to live to survive. Like you said, it's not like I don't like the people that I work with. I enjoy them a lot. I tell them this too. Okay, I just want to let you know I'm not going to be joining the things after work because I have to get home to my dog, which is not a lie. It's just my boundary and they
Yeah.
respect it. And I think that's really cool. But I just find it to be a waste of my time having to mask all day. I don't feel like I'm masking all day now at this particular place because I'm being treated how I'd like to be treated. So that makes me feel like I can be myself a little bit more than other places, which is very good. But there's always this underlying thing in the back of your mind when you are invited to something or you have to go do this thing. You're like, shoot, I'm not going to say a wrong thing, but it feels like I'm giving myself that opportunity to say a wrong thing. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been there otherwise. I would have been home doing what I wanted to do, but now I'm stuck in this situation where I feel like I said something wrong. You didn't, but you feel like you did.
Yeah,
Like,
I
unlike happy
definitely
hours.
get no. And like I could be at a happy hour with a whole bunch of people that I know in the workplace. And I used to have very close work colleagues that we'd have a great time having internal happy hours. But as they grew bigger and things, I'd go to them. It's the same conversation over and over again
Mhm,
with the same people or people from different departments. The entire time I'd be thinking to myself, I have so much work to do right now.
mhm,
I can't get it done during the workday and I can't get it done during the night. Standing
mhm.
here right now is giving me anxiety because
Yeah,
I'm talking about nothing when I could be doing this work.
yeah,
So there was always like a heavy sense of guilt about me going out and enjoying something like that for a couple of reasons. Companies are doing layoffs, but they're still doing happy hours. Go figure. I'd rather keep my job than have to go for beers. You do the layoffs and you give people additional work to do, but then say engagement scores are low. So now we've all got to do these engagement things like happy
mhm,
hours to get engagement
mhm,
scores up. And it's, yeah, but
yeah,
like you just sucked our soul out through all of
yeah,
these different things, especially for somebody that's neurodivergent that may struggle with change or with kind of instructions when they're literal versus subjective, that may be going through all these things and wondering like the entire time why I'm doing all these things, but I'm not getting anywhere, not
mhm,
realizing that, hey, you've got to do all that politics. You've got an
uh,
option here. You can either do it, and if you don't want to do it, choose to be rested, choose to do
mhm,
things that help you come
mhm,
back to work tomorrow and do the job really well, and then go
mhm,
home after it. And I like that you talk about how you feel right now that you don't actually have to mask as much. When you can be more like yourself, you definitely have more energy to deal with those spanners in the works that get thrown in when stuff comes up at
mhm.
work.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the opposite side of it. 'Cause I've had jobs where I come home exhausted and the job wasn't hard, but I couldn't pinpoint what's going on. I was like, this is an entry level job. I sure it's still a job, but like it's something that shouldn't be this draining. And yet I'm home and I'm just done. Like I can't even think about anything else other than why I'm drained. It was this very annoying cycle, and now I'm seeing the difference of coming more into myself. I'm feeling like I've reflected a lot to then see that I don't need to live my life like that. Like, I can go in, have boundaries, be firm about them, not mean about them, just firm, and then do the job, and then come home and have energy for myself and my partner and my dogs and my cat. It felt ridiculous to me that it took me that long to figure that out, but I think it has a lot to do with self-confidence and awareness, how you can have time to make meaningful relationships and nurture them. You don't need to put up with that. And you're like, "Oh, you don't? Okay, cool." I go over there, I tell them I don't wanna put up with this, but obviously politically in a good way. And then they're like, "Oh, I instantly respect Claire a little bit more." It's like, you have to play the game, and I also hate that, but yeah, it's
And you
yeah.
definitely figured it out at least 10 years before I did. It took me until late 30s to 40s to really figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
It's quite a recent thing for me. An attorney that I know used to say to me all the time, Lois, you're going to have to start learning how to kiss babies' heads. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And
What
he's,
does that
that's
mean?
what good politicians do. They kiss babies on
Mhm.
the head, right? You need to play politics. You need to
Yeah.
stop
Yeah.
and do the niceties with people. Cause I'm like, why do I need to stand and have niceties when I could just have an
Mm.
interactive conversation? And he's, you've just got to kiss the babies' heads. Just kiss the babies' heads.
You're like, "What? Dare you?"
I love it. I know quite a lot of attorneys that have had sage advice for me, but that was one of his. It was like, You have to do the politicking if your company and your leadership is set up by people that want to be worshipped. If they want to be seen as the biggest brain in the room, or they want to be
Mhm.
seen as being the person that's got all the answers and things like that, then yeah, you're going to have to do the politics. I personally want to do things differently, and I hope
Mhm.
in Unlabelled and Limitless, nobody ever gets that feeling. In fact, that's within our ethics handbook and will become part of our employee handbook, that burnout is not a badge of honor. Our managers are not to
Yeah.
lead by pushing people so far that they lead them to burnout,
Yeah.
because we're looking for sustainability, not constant productivity. And it's
Mhm.
two very different things. You can be sustainably productive, but if everything is geared towards this productivity,
Mm.
you have a whole group of people. They reckon 20 to 30% of the world's population might be neurodiverse. You've got 20 to 30% of your population that are driven in ways that most people don't understand, or understand
Mhm.
how to harness or nurture. But some very driven people like to understand the why, the what, the how, and the when. Tell us exactly
Mhm.
what it is, and we'll go there and do it. We'll improve it.
Mhm.
So you've got people that are in this way. Every time a company's board or shareholders, everybody says you've got to drive profits harder, the people that are going to do that are going to generally be a lot of neurodivergent people who are then just dropping like flies, because again,
Mhm.
it's the
Mhm.
same thing. For to what end?
Yeah.
Like, your company gets sold and then you get screwed out of shares because you find out the company wasn't really worth anything.
Yeah.
I've seen that
It was
happen. It's
yeah.
devastating. I had that. I was working for, and they are a phenomenal not-for-profit, but we had a scandal back in the early 2000s. There was this huge expose in the New York Times, and it devastated every single person that worked for the company because of how hard we'd all worked. And it really was this feeling of belonging and togetherness. And then
Mhm.
this scandal came out, and you realize that these two people that had created this great environment had been lying to everybody about their own lives. And it
Mhm.
was such a gut thump. And then the company became all about money and saving money,
Mhm.
and we had to take
Yeah.
money back, and then everybody's burning out again, falling like flies. But you said something a little while ago about when you were talking about cooking and things like that, and you said, when I make time. So talk to me about that a little bit, because I think that's something else that people don't understand, is that you really have to be intentional sometimes
Mhm.
about, not just about setting the boundary, but about doing the activity as well.
Yeah. A lot of people, including myself, say they don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. To some extent, I believe that if your day is completely booked, then sure, that makes sense. You don't have time. But when you look at your time and what you're doing with that time, you can, and at the same time thinking, I don't have time for the thing that I want to do. Yet I have all of these things on my list of things to do, I need to do, but none of them are fulfilling you, or none of them are resting your mind. We have 24 hours. When you put your phone down, it is related,
No, it
I think, a
is.
lot of people's lives. When you put your phone down and have the paper list, you go through the things, you're done. You made it through half of your list and still have 16 hours in a day. And you're like, whoa, I can do that much in that much time. And you're not burned out. You're not going fast. You're not pushing yourself to the limit. You're getting these things done and you feel on top of the world. You can get 10 things done in a day and not be burned out at the end of the day. For me, when I make time for a new recipe or making a cocktail, I have to be intentional with, okay, like, what else is on my list today? Did I cook 10 things already in that day? Maybe rest isn't included in the kitchen because I needed to do things in the kitchen. I'm trying to explain that making time for certain things that give you rest really just takes a lot of intention. Say you had 5 meetings in a day. And you're like, okay, I had to do those 5 meetings. Sure, some of them were cool conversations or some of them pushed you along in your project. But then you realize you booked a call with your mom, your best friend, and your brother. And you're like, oh, I already committed. What was supposed to be a restful activity of decompressing and catching up now becomes a chore. And you're like, ooh, I want to do. So now you have to say, okay, mom, I'm going to call you tomorrow. Kyle, I'm going to call you with my brother. I'm going to call you. And then the best friend, you're going to have a conversation that night because that's what you chose was going to. Same thing with me in the kitchen. Like I had to walk my dogs. I had to buy groceries. I had to make dinner. I had to also make dessert because I'm having a party tomorrow. I don't want to make another thing in the kitchen. I'm done. But on the days that you have more clarity, and I think weekdays and weekends are definitely different. I try really hard to have a nothing weekend once in a while, one weekend out of the month. My coworkers or my family will say, what are you doing this weekend? I was like, I don't know. And I love it. I'm going to figure it out. I'm not going anywhere though. I'm not going into town. I'm not going down the hill. I'm not doing anything that I don't want to do. And all the things that I want to do will happen. And I think that kind of gives people a lot of stress sometimes because they need to know what they're going to do. But on those weekends, I don't need to know what I'm going to do. All I know is I get to have hours in the kitchen, in the woods, to do whatever I want to do. And usually if I see the weekend coming up that has nothing planned, I'll find myself browsing on the internet like, oh, I want to make apple sauce or apple cider or something fall related because we're still in fall. And I'm going to just be in the kitchen for 8 hours. I don't care. My feet will be tired and maybe I would have made something worth my time. Maybe I wouldn't have because it's all an experiment. But at least I feel the sense of I did something for myself. Whether or not it came out or whatever, I prioritized myself like I said I would. And I love that. And that just goes for anything. Like I mentioned earlier, I live in a mile circle. Sometimes if you don't have time to walk around the block, it takes 30 minutes. We all have 30 minutes. Then I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Hello? Are we there? Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, but you're frozen. Am I frozen? Oh, okay. That's fun. Oh, yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, I agree with you on the being active. I'm finding that I also love working out, but I don't make time for it because I'm tired and I'm obviously not prioritizing it, even though I feel so good after a workout. Like, nice. I feel great about myself. I feel the endorphins are high. I feel like I'm able to come up with more ideas. I also align with creating new business ideas or ideas in general. Like I'm always thinking of smaller scaled things that I like, but would like to be larger scaled. I just like the idea. I like to know that my noggin is just always thinking of new things for myself and for a lot of people. And just having the ability to have ideas and dreams of things that you might not ever do is really cool, in my opinion. It opens up the creative side of me. You don't get to always have while you're at work. So if you don't get it at work, you can at least write it down when you get home. Yeah. Yeah. Giving and not receiving. You said something just now about you're always doing things to, I don't know, progress and not make it about yourself. And like you're doing things for other people, but you're staying probably too humble because nothing is about you at this point. I think it was supposed to be in a positive manner. Hey, it's not about you, it's about this. Let's focus on the actual impactful thing and remove yourself from it. Keep the positive things that we can feed off of to make it grow. It's not about you. So don't get in a fuss if something doesn't happen. But sometimes it is about you. Sometimes you need to make it about you to fill your cup and be more productive for what is needed to be productive. But I, for the longest time, removed myself from everything and didn't make anything about me. And then I got nowhere. Like, what is this? I'm giving everything and I'm not getting anywhere. And yes, I know the work politics and I know what you need to do, but do I really need to do that? I think people like me for my work and I think they like me as a person. I think the politics obviously are there, but not for me. Oh, whatever. And of course, it didn't go anywhere with that one. But yeah, sometimes it is about you. Yes, exactly. I love having these little podcasts. Right. Yeah, that sounds great. I would love to shoot me what that book is called, and maybe I'll try to get some of those pages in. But I'm a huge believer in food. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here for it. I'm thinking about that.
Thank you so much for listening to this first part of our series on rest. I hope something in Claire's story and in my own made you feel a little more seen in your relationship with productivity and burnout. In part 2, I will be joined by Faye to look at rest through a psychology lens, from trauma and dopamine to the many different kinds of rest our brains actually need. We would love for you to join us there.